Oh, hello, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining me for another Tech Tips 411 session. And today we're going to be talking about ideas for using Google Jamboard. So if you have already jumped on the Google Jamboard bandwagon and you're like, this is awesome, I'm really excited to get some tips and tricks for that, you're in the right place. So thank you guys so much for joining me. All right, so here we go. Jumping in. This is a fast-paced kind of session that I'll be doing. I started the series this week, and I'll be doing each day a different tool with 10 ideas. So for those of you that stumbled across this video, you just happened upon it. My name is Jennifer Hall, and I'm an educational technology specialist in Atlanta Public Schools. That means I provide technology training for teachers in the district. And my favorite part of my job is that I collaborate and plan with them on the best way to use instructional technology with their students to engage their learners. So let's jump in. These are some short form, quick sessions that I've been putting together each day. So today we're going to explore 10 ideas for using Jamboard to engage your learners. So it's like the top 10 list, no order of importance. Just I'm going to give you 10 ideas to use Google Jamboard. So excited to have folks here. Elizabeth, thanks. I'm so glad you're excited to learn. I'm excited to share. So let's go ahead and talk about number one. I love this. Really bragging about it. Shelly says, I'm outside the house enjoying the great outdoors. Okay, I'm in the studio. I'm sending positive vibes to my friend in Wisconsin. Enjoy. All right, so first up, my first suggestion now, and let me recap in case we got some folks that aren't familiar with Jamboard. Jamboard is a really powerful tool that is available. It's an interactive whiteboard. So you can get to Jamboard by going to jamboard.google.com. It lives in your Google Drive and you have access to it. It is such a cool tool if you haven't played around with it before. So it's jamboard.google.com. Okay. And so before we jump into the ideas, I just want to show where it is because it is pretty new. And you can hit that jamboard.google.com, hit this orange magical plus button, and it's going to give you this whiteboard. And it's just a basic whiteboard that you can use to create engaging lessons with your students. So it's pretty straightforward with just the tools. You've got the ability to use the pen to annotate and use brushes. You've got only a handful of colors. I can erase it. I can select things. I can add sticky notes. I can upload images. I can add images from Google search. That's the gist of it. It's pretty straightforward, but you can use it inside of your Google Classroom. And I'm going to give you some ideas. So I can change the background and I can, I have a couple of options here, a couple of colors. Unfortunately, you can't change it to different colors, but they are working on updating some things in Jamboard. And, so stay tuned for some updates, but I'm just going to show you some templates that I've created and some ways I think you'd want to use it. So thank you so much, Dina. Thrilled that you are here. Appreciate you tuning in. All right. So if you are here live, let me know in the chat that you're watching. We are streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and to Periscope. So if you are tuning in live, drop a message in the chat. Let us know you're here. If you're one of those awesome folks that are tuning in later on and you're watching this on repeat in the future, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. So that's how we get to Google Jamboard. So it's a blank canvas. And so I'm going to show you some of the ways that I think it's pretty cool to use it with your students. So the first way is for collaboration, because it is like any other Google Doc, like docs, slides, sheets, drawings. You can have students collaborate on it. So you can add it as an assignment inside of your classroom, Google Classroom for students, or you can just share the link and anyone can join the jam. So what's great about that is that you can do activities like labeling the cell structure. So this is actually just an image that I brought in to Jamboard, and you can use the tools to draw lines to where the parts are and use the Post-it notes to put labels. Okay. So all of these are templates that I'm going to show you guys. And you are welcome to grab any of these templates and use them. So for this particular activity, I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to go back here to my jams. And we're going to kind of scroll through different ones here. So you can see all of the awesome stuff about the jams, and actually make sure I'm in my right jams, because you have jams in your personal Google account and you have them available in your G Suite for Education. Oh, wow. Look at this. I got folks tuning in from all over. I see one of my teachers there. Hello. Good to see you. Look at this. I got Miss Williams all the way down from Florida in Boca Raton. Awesome. Look at this. We got folks from London. This is awesome. I see that says my school's letting me use it, but not the students. Is it still useful? Well, actually, it could be. Great question. If you are you using Zoom for your video conferencing? Because what you could do is you could use the Jamboard to set up what you want, and then you could have the students use the Zoom annotation tools to annotate. And I was going to talk about that. All right, so I've got my my jams here, and I've got a couple of different ones. So I want to open up this one here on the cell structure. And so what I've done is I've uploaded in here that image of the cell structure, and you're going to have students be able to use the Post-it notes and lines. So I can use the drawing tool to draw this part, and I'm not a science person, but I can draw a line right there, and then I can use the Post-it note to put the label of that structure. So for this purpose, I'm just going to say I'm not a science teacher, so forgive me. I'm just going to say cell membrane, which I know that's not it. Membrane, I can type. All right, so I can change the color of my sticky notes. I can say that. So I can actually now put that down here. Now I know that's not right because technically my line should be right out here because the membrane is on the outside, but you get the idea. So I can use lines to draw to parts, and I can work on this with my team because notice this can be shared. I can add anyone in here by sharing the link. Okay. Or if I'm using Google Classroom, I can add this as an assignment in Google Classroom. And that means we can collaborate on this, and I can work with my partner for us to come up and label the parts of it. And what's really, really cool is the fact that you can draw, you've got that drawing tool. So some people might say, well, can't you do that in Google Slides? Which you can, but the fact that it has that pen built in is great. And the fact that Jamboard is a mobile app as well. So students can pull it up on a tablet, like an iPad, and they can annotate, which is really cool. Wow, today is an awesome day. Look at this. I got someone all the way from Egypt. That is awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is awesome. Awesome, Elizabeth. Pump up the jam, pump it up. Well, I love it. Thank you so much for being here. And Miss Carter, one of my regular attendees that loves to tune in, back for a refresher and or new ideas. Hopefully you're going to get an idea or two. So that's how I can collaborate. I can work with my partner on my jam. And so we can work in small groups in breakout rooms. So for example, if you're using Zoom and you use the breakout room, you can have shared this in your Google Classroom and said, all right, group 1 is going to work on slide 1. Group 2 is going to work on slide 2. Because that's what's great about the Jamboard is I can have separate slides in here for students to work on. Okay. So that's idea 1. That was, oh, great. That's awesome. You were hoping for something like that you could do. Great. So that's collaboration. And there is that cell structure activity. So if you want to use that, you can. Here's another way that I think is really cool to use Jamboard, and this is great for younger learners, is that you can use it for sorting activities. Because you can add images into a Jamboard, what's really, really, really cool is the fact that I could preset this. So I've already added in several pictures for, this is 6th grade science activity, on renewable and non-renewable energy. So we can collectively in our Zoom or Google Meet session, we can be talking about types of energy, and let's classify these. These are drag and drop. I can move them. I can move them back and forth to where they go. So you could actually give your students the power to do that. So you could push it out as everybody has a copy, and they could do their own sorting and then come back together and see what they came up with. Or you could do it as a whole class activity. So I love that. There's my friend Wanda. Wanda says synchronous learning in groups. Yes, you can definitely differentiate for your learners using Jamboard and pushing these out, because you can say view only, make a copy for each student, or let them have editing rights. So just like any Google Doc you share in Google Classroom. So that's the sorting activity. So that's idea number 2. We got a couple more. So let's take a look. How about a small group task like 3 truths and a fib? Or for my folks that are real familiar with the SOS, 3 truths and a lie. I changed it to fib. So for my younger folks that are working with elementary, sometimes they don't like to use the word lie. They want to call it fib. But this is really, really cool to be able to do this. 3 truths and a fib or lie. And you can have them create their Post-it notes, and they have to put 1 in each box, and then students have to kind of guess which one was the truth and which one is the lie. So that's a template you can grab as well. Thanks, Shelly. Shelly says she loves the sorting activities for littles. Love that idea. Yeah, because it's very easy. They're used to using the mouse to drag things, and it's really easy for you to push that stuff right there. Let's see. I've got Miss Phillips says, my first activity in 2nd grade is sorting animals by their characteristics. Thank you for solving the problem, how to do it without being in partners. Awesome. Yay. I'm great. I'm thrilled to know you've got an option there. Awesome. So that's using it in small groups. So you could, again, push this out in Google Classroom and say, work in your groups, and everybody fills out their 3 truths and a lie. All right, or fib. How about using it as a virtual parking lot? So I'm calling this a graffiti wall. So what's great about that is that you can have students use this as the parking lot. Use the Post-it note as you're going through a class, and you can say, all right, drop any notes, comments, questions, concerns that you have. Because they can use the Post-it note option, they can easily drop that on there. And what's great is it can be anonymous. You can require either one, that they put their initials or their name in the bottom of their Post-it note, or just have them be able to do it, which is really comes in handy if students want to ask a question and not feel like they're on blast for asking that question. So a virtual parking lot is another way that you can use Google Jamboard. I think it's really cool because you can have that link live in your Google Classroom as your go-to Jamboard. So you can reuse it each day. You could keep adding to it. You could have multiple pages inside the Jamboard. And I love that the Post-it note is there, which works really good for younger learners because some of our younger learners struggle with, okay, is it a text box? Is it a shape I should be putting? And since it's a Post-it note, it can be really cool. Question coming in from Tanya says, can these be used with Seesaw? Since technically you can link, I'm not a Seesaw expert, but you can link anything in Seesaw, correct? So Google Jamboards have a link, and you can choose to share that link, and you can choose the privacy option. So yeah, you could link it into Seesaw if I'm correct, because you can link pretty much anything, just like you would link a Google Doc. And it lives in your Google Drive, so you can actually search for them in your Drive as well. So that was idea number 4. Here we go. Number 5, how about for SEL check-ins? Just checking a pulse check for students, because right now with this going virtual, so many schools, and I know folks are doing this back, face-to-face or hybrid. How about that check-in about where are you fitting on the spectrum? Are you feeling good today after the lesson? Are you feeling okay or bad? This could be your check-in before you start the lesson. I think it'd be really good. I love that my friend Marina says, yes, I think you can put the link in Seesaw. Great. Thank you for that. So yeah, as long as you can put a link, there's a link to your Jamboard. And I'll show you up here if I'm looking at the cell one. When I click share, I can get anyone with the link can view it. I can change, anyone can be an editor. So I can change this to editor, and I copy that link right there, and I can paste that anywhere I want to. Okay. So that should solve the issue for Seesaw, which was a great question. All right. So what do you think for SEL check-in? Do you think this is a good option right here? Just a pulse check, and they can use the Post-it notes. What's also great is you can add in other emojis, and they can kind of drag where they are on the scale. So that's another option. As a former ELA teacher, I would be remiss without including this activity, which I think is really cool. So this is a pretty jazzy Jamboard. I screenshotted the lyrics to Stereo Heart. So as a former ELA teacher, we always did activities with figurative language. This is probably one of my favorite songs to use for students to understand simile, metaphor, hyperbole, personification. So I screenshotted this because you can add images and drop that in. And then I made, here's my key, because there's only 4 colors. Well, there's black in 4 colors. And I said, you need to highlight or circle the similes, metaphors, hyperbole, and personification with those colors that you have in the Jamboard. So that is another activity you could do, which is really good for that. Students can circle and annotate on any kind of text. Wanda says, I love the SEL checking in, and the emoji would be a great feature. Yeah, because you can upload images. Technically, students can search and add an image. You could say, find an emoji for how you're feeling right now, which is pretty cool. All right. So what do we think about this annotation, text annotation activity? I think that this is obviously, for your older students, upper, elementary, middle, and high, but we know that they have to practice text annotation, but they can work with their partner on this, and they can use those colors and have a code. Oh, so how do you add cards to sort? Each card is uploaded as an image. Yes. So you would add each image separately. So for example, when I did, let me go over here to my jams, and it took me, I go back over here. We're going to open up a new jam. I'll just start from a fresh jam. How about that? So I'm going to go open up a new jam, and I wanted to add in like those images on cells. Or for example, I brought in I screenshotted the parts I needed for the text. So here's where I upload that. I use add image, and I can upload any image I have. So that's why I was able to add a screenshot, but I can do Google image search. So when I was doing the energy task, I just searched energy. And I was able to grab that images that I wanted to use that would work. So actually I searched renewable energy, and I was able to pull up those images and add them in very easily. So I'm like, okay, I like this one because that's showing solar power, or excuse me, wind power. And I also had solar power, so I could add those in. So when you add in an image, notice you can resize it so I can make it smaller or larger. So that's how I made them like little cards at the bottom. I can turn them, and I can duplicate them if I want them on there multiple times. So for example, if you wanted to have a bunch of emojis that were all like a bunch of smiley faces, a bunch of frowny faces, you could just add the one you want and duplicate it like 20 times. Okay. So that's how you can add the images in here. Okay. Is that clear about how we add the images? Awesome. Okay. So there's that annotation task. Let's take a look at the next one. And then I'm going to show you some secret tips on how you can jazz up your Jamboard. All right. So next up is summarizing. So strategies like AEIOU is very easy for you to push this out for students. And so they can add in their vocabulary on Post-it notes so that you know that I want one adjective. I want one, I want your emotion. You can do Post-it notes and they can fill it out. And actually you can have multiple Post-it notes. So you could have students work on this in a small group task. Okay, so this is another template, very easy to use, and you can share this with your students. Awesome. Glad that that was clear for you, Ms. Phillips. Thank you. I love that we have educators helping educators. So Elizabeth says, Tanya, I suggest embedding that Jamboard link. It says into an activity page or on your daily, weekly schedule. So that's that seesaw tip. Thank you so much for Elizabeth for sharing that tip. I love when educators collaborate and share with one another. That's fantastic. So let's take a look at another one. How about four corners, which this is an activity that we do when we're face-to-face in a classroom setting, and you might have students move to four corners in the room based on where they feel on a topic or what their understanding is. So this is a template that I created that you can actually have them bring in their own little emojis. What's really cool is that you can have them upload their own little pictures if they want. So you can really make this personal, and they can drag and move themselves to where they are virtually in the discussion. What do you think? Pretty cool idea. Especially if they want to upload their own little selfie photo, or they want to upload an avatar that represents them. So that is idea number 8, which is discussion, and using a template like this with four corners. All right, so the next one would be quick writes, because you can use the Post-it note tool. For those of you that are not familiar with 6-word story, it's an easy strategy to summarize your thinking on something or how you're feeling. So you can use 6-word story, because the Post-it notes, that's very easy for you to put 6 words in the Post-it note. They can be anonymous, or you can require students to put their name at the end of their 6-word story. Okay, so that's another template, which is a quick write activity that you can use. The last one that I think is pretty good, number 10, is to use it as an exit ticket, thumbs up, thumbs down, kind of where you are at the end of your lesson. Again, this is another SEL component, just as a check-in for students. I think this is a great way to use Jamboard, because students, as they join the Jam, they can manipulate and move where they are on the scale. Okay. I think, yeah, there's a lot of ways you can do it. And I really think it would be cool to have the kids, because you could have a standing exit ticket like that, where students do upload their selfies, that way that they have that ownership, and it's like their little virtual self in the virtual classroom. So that is tip number 10. So those are quick 10 ideas. Remember, that's what this series is all about, 10 ideas. But I want to show you the magic, because you might be wondering, well, Jen, how did you make yours so jazzy? Because there is no text input in Jamboard. Now, on your mobile device, you can type text and then it will kind of recognize it. But it's not very pretty. There's not a formatting option, but you'll notice all of mine that I shared have some pretty jazzy text and stuff in it. What do you think? Do you want to know the magic secret tip of how I did that? All right. See, I added different elements. So I use one of my favorite websites, which is cooltext.com. And if you're not familiar with cooltext.com, it lets you create fantastic logos. In fact, I made my Tech Tips 411 logo on there years ago, and I've been using it ever since. So you can pick what you want it to look like. You can use animation as well. So you notice there was like the flaming one that I used for renewable energy. You can type what you want it to say. You can easily change the colors based on what you want it to be. Okay, format it the way you want. You're going to create that logo. And because you can upload an image to your Jamboard, that's going to be your instructions or any titles that you want to create. So notice I did that, and then I'm able to easily upload that. So I'm going to show you guys that real time real quick. So I'm going to go over to my cooltext.com. And I want to make a header for our writing activity. And I kind of really like this one right here. So I can pick that. And we're going to say writing. I can't type. It's terrible. As much as I'm on the computer, you think I'd be much better at that. Writing task. I'm liking the font, but I could change it here if I want. I'm going to say create my logo. I'm going to choose to download it. That's going to live right there. I'm going to go back to this jam that we were playing with. And I'm going to say upload an image. I'm going to drag that text right there. And now I've got my information on there. So I was able to add that. I also, what I did, so I didn't want just headings. For the annotation one, I used Google Slides to actually make my instructions, and I just made them transparent so I could move them anywhere I wanted on there. But this is how you can have cool labels of like yes or no, or just simple instructions, and you can actually have that live at the top of your stuff. Oh, thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. I'm glad you found the tips. And Wanda says you love cooltext.com. It's magic. And my friend Miss Phillips says I love magic. So yeah, so that's the way you can jazz up your Jamboards, is using cooltext.com. Guess what? You can also use that to jazz up your Google Slides presentations as well. Awesome. I'm glad that you thought it was amazing. I'm thrilled that you thought that was a good tip. So there we were. 10 ideas for using Jamboard. Hopefully you got at least one. But here's the great thing. You're probably like, well, Jen, can I just get a hold of all of those? Yes, you can. Under my Tech Tips 411 website, I've actually got a page, techtips411.com/Jamboard. And under Jamboard, every single one of these is available for you to grab a copy of it. So help yourself. And once you get it, you can actually modify it as well. So for example, you liked this text annotation one, you could just remove the text that I've included right here. Yeah. Elizabeth says, yes, teachers love little things like amped up text. Oh, of course. I mean, you want to make it jazzy. That's what we got to do. So you can grab any of these. And what's great is that you can make a copy of it and modify it to your heart's content and use it with your students. And I'll be creating some more Jamboards. So you might want to favorite that page so you can come back to it. All right, guys. So that was it. Questions, comments, or thoughts? What did you think? Hopefully you got some ideas of ways you can use Jamboard. I shared 10 ideas for using Jamboard. And I think it's such a powerful collaboration tool. If you are a teacher that's using Zoom, I would suggest what you can also do is pre-set up your Zoom or preset up your Jamboard, bring that in and use the power of the annotation tools in Zoom and let them annotate over it, and you can screen grab that. So yeah, pretty cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm glad you found that this was beneficial. So I'm very much enjoying doing these sessions every day at 2 p.m. I'm scheduled through the rest of this week and into next week. Tomorrow, I'm going to be giving you 10 tips, 10 ideas for using Flipgrid. So please join that. Awesome. Thanks, Shelley. I'm glad you love it. Miss Carter says, thank you for the templates. Yes, yes. Please use it. Please share it with your colleagues. Share with that. Wanda, I'm glad you thought the tips were awesome. And great. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And tell your friends if they didn't get to catch this live, they can go back and watch this archive of this. And I'm super excited to share more tips and tricks. You can get those resources at techtips411.com. Thank you guys so much. And I will see you guys on the next one.